everyone, welcome to the Universe, and my video series is Spirituality a Trap? Journeying with a Multidimensional Healer. I would like to take this opportunity to thank all my viewers and subscribers. I appreciate all of you for taking the time to watch my videos and leave the comments behind. I would greatly urge everyone to subscribe and press that bell icon as it keeps me encouraged to create these videos. Today's episode is by request, and I would absolutely love more requests. At the end of the day, these videos are made to help you find the truth in spirituality. On the last episode, we delved into the concept of astral travel and discussed its potential dangers. Today, we will expand our understanding further. Welcome to this episode where we will explore the differences between astral projection and lucid dreaming, and also discuss a significant branch of astral travel, near-death experiences. Further, I wanted to share a little bit on why I consciously choose not to practice these techniques. From my last episode, we now understand that astral travel involves your astral body traveling, and it is limited to the fourth dimension. We also note that when we are aware of an astral projection, it indicates that the ego is in control. With this understanding of the roles of the ego and the astral body, let's dissect lucid dreaming. Lucid dreaming is a phenomenon in which the dreamer becomes aware that they are dreaming while the dream is still happening. This awareness allows the dreamer sometimes to exert some degree of control over the dream's content, environment, and actions within the dream. So the first thing that needs to be made clear here is that the awareness is now solely around dreaming. In fact, the definition, the name, and the techniques to try and lucid dream are all catered to simply bring awareness during dreaming. One of these methods is called reality testing, whereby you keep telling yourself what is real with the intention that your brain starts to recognize when it is not real. In this instance, dreaming. Or the wake back to bake method, where you wake up during sleep and go back to bed with the intention of lucid dreaming. One lucid dreamer stated, "In a lucid dream, you know that you are dreaming, and you can often consciously influence the course of the dream, shifting its focus and content." Another stated, "In my lucid dreams, I can fly, explore magical landscapes, and meet fascinating characters. It's a creative playground where my imagination knows no bounds." What we can observe from these personal experiences is that being a dream and using your imagination is the key to lucid dreaming. It is indeed a dream, and there is absolutely nothing real about it. So it is safe to say that lucid dreaming occurs in the dream realm, where one can create or even control the dream. Further, we can establish the ego's role here once again. In order to be aware that you're dreaming, your ego needs to be the driver. Therefore, with both lucid dreaming and astral travel, the ego is the main driver. The major difference is that lucid dreaming does not involve your astral body, whereas astral travel does. Lucid dreamers are not having an out-of-body experience, but simply a mind or an inner-body experience. So, lucid dreaming is the ability to switch from the subconscious driver to the ego driver, therefore bringing awareness and essentially energy manipulation through imagination into the dream state. As the astral body is present in the physical body during lucid dreaming, the other difference one can establish is the sleep paralysis that is experienced around both practices. During astral travel, you cannot move as you cannot function without the astral body, whereas the sleep paralysis during lucid dreaming is a bodily function by which the body recognizes it is dreaming, so it intentionally paralyzes the voluntary muscles in your body, known as REM atonia. REM atonia is a specific type of muscle atonia that occurs during REM sleep, and it is a natural and protective feature of sleep, preventing physical activity during dreaming. So, during lucid dreaming, your body is paralyzed due to the fact that you're dreaming, and this awareness of the dream doesn't change the paralysis. Whereas in astral traveling, you simply cannot move or function as the astral body hasn't returned. Both types of travel are ego-based, but lucid dreaming still falls under the category of mind traveling. as there is no astral body involved. This further establishes that lucid dreaming is purely dreaming, as REM atonia is a safety feature produced by our body during REM sleep. Although the sleep paralysis may feel similar in both aspects, they are entirely different, which allows us to ponder how many people confuse the two practices. Now, if you remember from the last episode, I mentioned that the astral body is limited to the fourth dimension. With lucid dreaming, because there is no astral body, does it mean that the ego can go anywhere at once? On one level, one may think that having no astral body might mean limitlessness in this aspect. Today, we are going to understand that the ego has its limitations too. The ego can only exist in the fourth dimension because the minute the ego goes higher, it has to merge with other egos, which would defeat the point of lucid dreaming and astral travel. As long as your ego is the main driver, the soul cannot go further than the fourth dimension. Another way of seeing this is that in the fourth dimension, individual identities still exist. And in the fifth, it is a collective identity, which can also be referred to as the collective consciousness. Perhaps it is simply a collection of our egos from all our past lives as one entity. And as I mentioned in my last episode, only mind travel with the subconscious as the driver is limitless. Lucid dreaming essentially is a safer practice than astral travel, as your astral body stays intact with your physical body. Many of us have seen the movie Inception, and although it is an extremely exaggerated version, does provide an insight or an idea into the concept of lucid dreaming. I would say the biggest pitfalls of lucid dreaming are causing sleep disturbances, getting addicted to lucid dreaming, or the escape it provides, potentially leading one to lose a sense of reality. So guys, once again, if this is something you want to practice, remember that it is indeed a dream, and if the ego is in charge, all experiences you are having are extremely personal and will make the most sense to you alone. The most important thing to remember is that despite the fact that lucid dreaming and astral travel are presented as spiritual techniques, it is not a necessary practice to have. We know that as humans, we have the ability to consciously explore lucid dreaming and astral travel through techniques and practices. However, there is a unique aspect of astral travel that appears to be chosen and predestined for some of us: NDEs. An NDE stands for a near-death experience. It refers to a profound personal experience that some people report after coming close to death or being clinically dead for a short period, but then being revived. Astral travel, while we are conscious and awake, relies on our ego being present. Near-death experiences are also conscious astral travel. Therefore, the key in understanding a near-death experience, once again, involves our ego and the knowing that we are dead. All near-death experiences start at the same place, the realization that you are supposedly dead. Notice that a person that goes through this experience is usually clinically dead for a few seconds to a few minutes, with the average time being 4 to 6 minutes before brain damage starts to kick in. Yet, most NDE stories seem long enough to write a book or document an entire story. With millions of people having had this experience and 10,000s documented, my question is, surely by now we would have learned something. And by all means we have. We know for certain it is an out-of-body experience, and we know that we return back to the body, essentially coming back to life. We know without question this is astral travel or projection. The only difference is that in astral travel, the ego is aware that it is alive, while in a near-death experience, the ego knows it's dead. The fact that people recognize that they are dead tells you that the ego is the one in charge here. When the physical body dies and the breath stops, the first thing it does is it pushes its astral body out. The only difference with an NDE is that the energetic connection is very much still there. The conclusion here is that without our breath, our astral bodies cannot stay in our physical bodies. In death, the breath always stops first, and when the brain activity completely ceases is when we are biologically dead. So in a near-death experience, the astral body and breath return before the brain activity stops. This makes absolute sense as the ego and the self are very much present, alive, and still connected to the body. The energetic attachment to your body can even be visible during these experiences, bringing comfort to some near-death experiences. One NDE survivor said, "I saw a silver cord connected to my body and knew it was my lifeline. As long as it was intact, I could return to my body." Another stated, "I felt a connection, like a cord, that linked me back to my body. It was comforting to know I could return." The personal experiences reveals another insight. Although the ego recognizes it is dead, there is an awareness that it is not over yet. For example, another person said, "I was overwhelmed with a sense of fear and confusion when I realized that I had died. The idea of being dead filled me with dread." Another said, "I felt a profound sense of panic and fear when I realized I was out of my body and might be dead. The thought of death was terrifying." Notice that there is a fear of being dead, but there is still a lack of certainty as death still remains slightly elusive. Even with the negative NDE stories, this uncertainty remains. One NDE survivor with a negative experience stated, "I was standing at the edge of a huge abyss with the sense of something completely unknown and entirely terrifying beyond it." Another said, "I was in a dark place and there were these beings all around me, tormenting me. It was like the worst horror movie, but I couldn't wake up or escape." Despite the fear and the acknowledgement of being dead, it remains an ideology or a possibility in the near-death experience, not an absolute fact. There is always a boundary and a sense that life still exists. Those that have had negative NDEs describe it as a nightmare of fear or a state they couldn't wake up from, but there's always a lack of permanency in their descriptions, suggesting that the ego is subtly aware that it will return. There also seems to be a lingering idea that they're in a place that they're not supposed to be. What makes it even more interesting is how people believe that they are making their own choice in returning. With astral travel, we know that coming back is certain and not a choice, unless the person dies, in which case it would no longer be astral travel or a near-death experience. The core of a near-death experience is dying and then coming back to life knowingly. The right question to now ask is, why are no two NDE stories identical? The main reason here is that just like any astral travel, your ego is in charge, meaning your experiences are purely individual and tailored specifically for you. Since all near-death experiences are astral travel, they are also limited to the fourth dimension. So we know for a fact that everyone is having their experiences in the astral plane within the same boundaries. It is also important to consider that two people could be shown the same vision but derive entirely different meanings from it, leading to distinct and personal experiences. Even though there are commonalities within NDEs, such as feelings of peace and calm, experiencing a sensation of moving through a tunnel, or even feeling fear, it is important to understand that everyone will be influenced by their cultural, religious, societal, and personal beliefs, as well as their conditioning. Someone who believes in angels may witness angels, while someone else who's heavily religious may see Jesus Christ or Krishna, depending on their religion. During the entire experience of an NDE, one takes the knowledge of the earth via the ego and then applies their ego to the near-death experience, and when they come back to earth, they share their story with their ego. And this is exactly why no two near-death experiences are identical, because our egos are not identical, but are individual and unique, and therefore so is the experience. The egos cannot witness without judgment. Further, if an NDE allowed people to get the exact picture of the afterlife, there wouldn't be so many discrepancies. I also want to say that it is extremely unfair to hold on to any NDE experiences wholly, as that may not be fair on those that have had negative experiences. Perhaps your fear or your joy of being dead dictates the experience, or perhaps it is a karmic intervention. I believe that near-death experiences are an awakening on its own, and it is served as a karmic intervention to people. Whatever you receive, a message about your future, the global future, talking to deceased loved ones, feeling scared, or the obligation to go back, it is all karmic. This experience transforms your belief system and changes your relationship with death, whether positive or negative. No one can possibly be the same after a near-death experience, and it is bound to change you and your life in one way or another. Your ego has been shown what death potentially looks like, producing lifelong symptoms that is all catered to guide your actions better for when you return back to Earth. This is why when people feel obligated to come back or even guilt-tripped to come back, I do not believe anyone is doing that to you except your own ego, as coming back is part of the experience and the intervention. I understand that one may not feel like coming back, just as we would feel like on the last day of our holidays, but it is not forced upon you in any way. It simply is what it is. Further, I'm fairly certain that no matter the experience, the outcome is a positive change. For example, if someone had a negative NDE and is now scared of dying or of the other side, which they also know to be very real, most likely they will be a better person. The beauty of a near-death experience is that it is completely random and uncontrolled by us as humans. Some people have faced a near-death situation with no actual NDE experience, which does show that it is truly a karmic intervention. Surviving death doesn't always guarantee this experience, so you have to realize that if you've had one, there is a reason behind it. Lastly, it is also safe to say that perhaps the idea of heaven and hell is further solidified by NDEs, whereby some people have seen heaven and some have experienced hell. As humans, we must find an intelligent balance between what we learn through observation and what we learn through experience. And then we must determine in which circumstance does the right knowledge get applied. And finally, I mentioned that I would share why I choose not to practice any of these techniques. I personally find both astral traveling and lucid dreaming in one way or another not entirely safe for our psyche, which I've already made clear. In terms of personal preference, I will always choose silent meditation over anything else. Meditation allows you to explore so much in the right way, and I genuinely believe that daily meditation will provide more benefits in the long run than attempting astral travel or lucid dreaming. As a dimensional traveler, I am aware that the fourth dimension is another place like Earth, with the dualities of good and bad. As we already have to navigate the dualities here, I personally do not understand the point of experiencing them again in the fourth dimension, especially when perceptions of energy can vary from person to person. What I can understand is the need to tap into the beauty of the higher dimensions, which is why I believe that meditation is the best practice. Just a quick personal example. My spiritual journey truly started after I meditated for 30 days straight and received my first message from the other side. Meditation was the gateway to my spiritual exploration, my gifts, and my knowledge. At the end of the day, meditation aims to help us lose ourselves in the mantras, our breath, or visuals, while astral travel and lucid dreaming focus on maintaining absolute control. If the essence of spirituality is to understand that our ego's individuality does not define our true self, then why encourage practices that are heavily ego-based? Even the concept of ego death in spirituality seems contradictory to practices like astral travel. If enlightenment and non-dualism are about shutting off the ego and becoming one with the universe, once again, how can these ego-driven practices coexist? And to me, it is just that simple. If there is absolute awareness of the potential for the ego to be deceived, then why create or delve into practices that further inflate the ego? If we want to be spiritual beings, we must embrace the boundaries and limitations we have as humans, and we must be willing to work with them. I will leave you with one question. If faith is about believing and trusting without proof, spirituality is about detachment from ego, and universal truth has to include every single person, then do your practices genuinely reflect and integrate all these principles? Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and see you next time on the Anayaverse. Bye.